in terms from the Nanny State Index, which is a league table of heavily regulated countries in Europe in terms of eating, drinking, smoking and vaping now has been added to it, has placed Ireland third in the rankings.
Joining us to discuss are Professor Donal O'Shea, Chair of the Royal College of Physicians of Ireland Policy Group on Obesity, and Independent Councillor Keith Redmond, co-founder of the Hibernia Forum. You're both very welcome to the programme.
Good morning.
Now, it's a divisive topic. I mean, how regulated should we be, and how much of a laissez-faire attitude should the government be taking to it? Donal, I'll put that to you first.
Yeah, I mean, we have a crisis. We have trolleys in every hospital in the country, and obesity is filling those trolleys with the cancer, with the dementia, with the diabetes. So we have to deal with the obesity epidemic. Changing behaviour is how you do that. And regulation is a part of changing behaviour. We know that. The plastic bag tax, the smoking ban, both positive, both have made a big difference, the smoking ban, to health. And something like the sugar tax will alter the pattern of consumption of sugar-sweetened drinks and make us healthier.
Isn't that a very reasonable approach there, Keith, that this is kind of it's a moderate approach, it's not over the top? The term, nanny state is one that's being bandied about way too much. What the government and the authorities are actually doing is just putting in place a reasoned measure so that people are aware of what's bad for them and what's good for them, with their overall general health in mind.
Well, I think Donal and I would probably agree on a lot of things, which is that we have a problem in Ireland with obesity, and that we would like to see that tackled in some way. But this goes back to that kind of yes minister argument, which is, we have a problem, something must be done, this is something, so let's do it. Okay, so what we're really talking about is what's going to have an effect and what's going to make a difference. And what's been proven time and time again across the world is what has an effect on changing behaviour is education and information. It is not going to be changed by a tax. So, for example, when we talk about the sugar tax, we already have a tax on sugary confectionery items. It's called VAT. It's 23%. We raised it from 21 to 23% in 2009. We don't have any fewer fat people. Okay, so taxes don't really work to impact. A sugar tax was introduced in Mexico a few years ago, and for the first year it saw a decrease in consumption of sugary foods and drinks, and everybody thought this was a fantastic thing. But what had happened was, in the build-up to the sugar tax, there had been enormous debate on TV and radio. There had been lots of public health campaigns about sugar and the sugar tax and what was going to happen. And what had happened was the information and the education as a result of that had resulted in a decrease in the behaviour. But what happened at 12 months later was the sugar tax was implemented, the education and information and discussions all went away, and the consumption just came back again. So I think if anybody's sitting at home now and they know somebody who likes a can of fizzy drink, do they really think that if you increase the can of fizzy drink by 20 cent or 30 cent, people aren't going to drink it? I think that would be a bit fallacious.
Donal, can I just put a question to you regarding smoking, right? Yeah. Everybody knows that cigarettes are bad for you. They're a major source of revenue for the government. The simplest thing, and particularly if you're, say, for the island of Ireland, would be just to outlaw the sale of cigarettes, full stop. I know you probably drive underground, but for most decent people who want to abide by the law, would that not be the way forward in terms of smoking, or is that going too far?
Yeah, I mean, we know outright bans do not work. So, I mean, an outright ban never succeeds, and you just drive it, as you say, underground. And I am for choice. We have a massive problem filling our hospital trolleys that has been driven by the obesity epidemic.
And you're seeing that firsthand
you're a dentist. You see the effects of the sugar-sweetened drinks. We have the evidence around sugar-sweetened drinks in kids that they drive an unhealthy weight, and if you get rid of them, their weight is healthy. Education underpins how we will make progress, and I totally agree with that. When calories went on menu boards in New York, there was a 7-year opposition from the industry. There was a 7-year debate, massive education opportunity. The more it's discussed, then the more people will change their behaviour. But then adding the tax is the other measure. Fiscal measures work. It's a blunt instrument, but it's all the government have. And even if they just use the money they generate to fund the Healthy Ireland agenda, to fund more cycle paths so you can commute actively to work, and the sugar tax itself doesn't affect consumption.
Keith, you're shaking your head there, but if you look at the freest nations in the index, the Czech Republic, Germany, they do have a different mindset to us. Would it be fair to say that we're a nation that needs some kind of guidance guidelines.
No, we don't have a different mindset. That's an often used argument to promote the likes of nanny state measures. We're very similar to our European cousins. We don't have a drastically kind of reckless behaviour in comparison. The reason that Germany and Austria, for example, are at the lower end is a political reason. It goes back actually to World War II, because the Nazis introduced an awful lot of kind of healthy measures. They made people mandatory exercise, mandatory diets, this kind of stuff. So they have a very dark history with nanny statism, and so they're very reluctant to go down that road again. And that's why it's more a historic thing. It's nothing to do with individual behaviours. When it comes to cigarettes, we can see the impact, for example, of that the number of people who are smoking in Ireland is decreasing, okay? And people who are in favour of higher taxes on cigarettes will say that that's the cause of it. But really, if you're addicted to cigarettes, again, I come back to it, if somebody's sitting at home now and they're a smoker, okay, and they're addicted to cigarettes, when the budget goes up by 50 cent, you know, does your partner turn around to you and say, well, that's it now, I'm going to give up cigarettes? They don't. They're addicted to cigarettes. So they will buy cigarettes more than they will buy the next thing. So what tends to happen, for example, they're going to bring in another thing called minimum alcohol pricing, which is pretty soon. And this is setting a minimum floor below which alcohol can't be sold. So it affects only the cheapest alcohol. So it's directly attacking only the poorest people, because it's saying to them, I mean, the people who are promoting it, doctors and politicians, will still be able to go home and buy themselves a €20 bottle of Chateauneuf de Pape. They won't be affected. If somebody goes to Aldi and gets themselves a few cans, they will be.
There is an argument strongly in favour of targeting those who are most ill affected by their behaviour.
Well,
so minimum unit
pricing. Patronising. I don't think you should go down the road of targeting the community and saying to them, we are going to be better than you, and therefore we're going to tell you what you can eat and drink. I think that's wrong.
A health measure. I mean, there are people in Frank Murray's liver unit, there are people dying every week dying of alcohol-related liver disease, and it is binge drinking and harmful drinking of cheap alcohol that is mainly responsible.
Let me put this,
well, if you have a measure
off the back of what you're saying there.
Well, I think that if you increase the cost of a can of beer from, say, 90 cents to €1.50, and you're addicted to alcohol, all that happens there, and because you're targeting only the poorest in the community, all that happens there is the alcoholic will make their family suffer, because the alcoholic will still get their beir. Their wife and children will have less.
I don't agree with that. You will change the pattern of drinking.
They're addicted to it. They will buy it in favour of everything else.
You're not going to win with the addiction, but you will stop people embracing that behaviour at the outset. You will stop the young kids drinking cheap alcohol to excess and starting on the road to addiction. So that's a progressive.
I think that's
tax
wishful.
In health terms, it's regressive.
So Keith, if it's not tax, what is it?
Highly regressive.
Is it awareness?
It's highly regressive. It only affects the poor.
Regressive fiscally, progressive in health terms.
Okay, so you're in favour, for example, of middle class people saying to working class people, you're not really educated enough to make this decision for you, but we're going to make that for you.
No.
Do you not see how that's very paternalistic and patronising?
If you put it like that, it is, but we're not saying that.
But sure, it's only middle class people who are making laws.
Patterns of drinking behaviour that set you on the road to addiction, and we can influence those through fiscal measures.
Okay, fine. Why do politicians not want to
economic growth?
There we would have to leave it. Much as I would like to continue this conversation, and if you have opinions on this, we would love to hear from you on it. Donald Keith, thank you very much for your time this morning. Up next, we're taking a look through the Sunday papers with stories on phone tapping, the future of the Garda Commissioner, and the race for the leadership of Fine Gael. Do stay with us.